Our call for papers was pitched in the interrogative mode, in keeping with the idea that the university should be the community of the question, the interrogative community that keeps open the question of community. And in our case, the community that is the study abroad campus and the home campus, the two together forming a larger kind of community that we are here today to examine, focusing on problems that also, as Sasha indicated, present opportunities. In the university and also in a conference like this, the spirit of free inquiry must motivate both faculty and administration. Let us ask straight up the hostile question, the answer to which many consider to be obvious. Usually people say yes, some people. The question is this: whether the larger community that constituted by the home campus and the satellite campus is merely a loose confederation of players with nothing more between them than the raw stuff of administration and the bare outline of a common script that, if observed, produces the requisite minimum of civility necessary for survival and tolerable entrepreneurship relative to the satellite campus. But this hostile question needs to be offset by another question, equally extreme but in the opposite direction. Are the component parts of the larger community internally and dynamically related such that they form a gestalt, a whole, different from and greater than the sum of its parts, where there is genuine two-way traffic, with the study abroad campus significantly influencing in multiple ways the home campus and how it conceives itself? Now, these are two extremes, but they form the context, I think, a general context for our deliberations this weekend. From all of the questions in our call for papers, I would like to concentrate on what I consider to be one of the most difficult and controversial questions. How should the status and identity of faculty members in study abroad programs be addressed, discussed, and formalized, especially when compared to their peers in the United States? How can their concerns and anxieties be handled? How can they be supported and encouraged best with respect to the inherent limitations of hiring and contractual practices in the host country? Let me begin by unpacking interrogatively the question of the larger community in greater detail. Okapi has just published and circulated a text written by P.S. Schneider, 50 Years of Growth. Okapi, 50 Years of Growth. And this effectively maps the development of study abroad programs in Italy. In those 50 years, universities in the United States have progressively realized the importance for students to be exposed to other cultures, but have their programs significantly changed the home institution? Has the study abroad program been anything more than a sidecar with the consequent neglect of developing a strong faculty that could inform the home campus curriculum? By the satellite campus functioning, for instance, as a place where the home campus could do creative curricular thinking and experimentation. Did the home campus during the last 50 years continue to renew old tenure tracks or create new ones without considering the possibility that some local study abroad faculty could be part of their faculty? Not merely adjuncts, but recognized as bona fide professors, even if part-time, belonging to the home departments, such that the home department has a foreign faculty that is treated with genuine peer status. Did home campus departments create tracks in their respective majors, curricular tracks, in their respective majors that required students to study abroad to fulfill requirements for the major, and thus creating a more collaborative and effective partnership with the foreign faculty? Regarding the latter, we often hear that professors at the home campus will not have enough students in their classes if students are required or seriously encouraged by the major to study in a particular country. Take, for example, the Italian faculty in some universities in the United States, where enrollments in the major are very low, such that they will not accept a study abroad course, say in Italian literature, as counting for the major or the minor. It can be an elective, but doesn't count for the major or the minor. But is this because the home faculty was developed without consideration of the rich opportunities the study abroad program and location presented to the major? In other words, it could be well argued from the satellite campus perspective, and many colleagues of mine who work at Gonzaga and Florence, it could be argued that the home faculty is needlessly bloated and continues to be, with the foreign faculty being regarded, as many consider themselves, adjunct mercenaries, or the teaching proletariat. These questions and the perspective that informs them may well be too facile, too cavalier, and may well mask a range of complexities and a history that cannot be ignored. And I think those questions do. For instance, what are the conditions for the possibility of the foreign faculty being intrinsically related to the home faculty? By what criteria and process would the foreign faculty be selected in order that they would have such influence? Could the satellite campus, with its limited number of students, offer as many courses if some of its faculty were part of the home faculty with full teaching responsibilities while in Florence? And some faculty have consistently requested that they be full-time, as a faculty member would be in the United States, full-time, basically then teaching 6 courses. Also, the question of for what purpose was the study abroad program developed by the home campus? Acknowledging that each program has its own history and purpose, let me discuss the latter question about the history, first of all, by taking up the example of Gonzaga and Florence, and this will allow me then to discuss the question of faculty status. I like to think of the original vision of the Jesuits who founded Gonzaga and Florence. They saw that Gonzaga students were isolated in eastern Washington in what some folks called a bush college, an outpost in the so-called Inland Empire. And they knew as Jesuits they belonged to a transnational, to a world order. They also knew that the Society of Jesus was a natural heir of the intellectual emancipation that took place in the Renaissance. The Jesuits actively contributed to the building of modernity by creating a new system of liberal education, participating in the scientific revolution, and building the first early modern network of intercultural dialogues with non-Christian areas beyond the Mediterranean. And as reflected, you can find this in St. Ignatius' letters. And so in the spirit of aggiornamento that was sweeping the Catholic Church in 1963, the administration of Gonzaga University decided to break the provincial membrane, to expand the campus acres, to situate the curriculum in another city, in the Renaissance city of Florence. They wanted Gonzaga students to be firmly rooted in the Jesuit liberal learning tradition, characterized by its challenge approach that once made the Jesuits the schoolmasters of Europe. And this called for linguistic and cultural immersion that would allow the students to break the stranglehold of English on their consciousness, to engage firsthand with another culture, and to achieve new critical assessment of their own culture. And this meant that students were also registered in the local university, and that course equivalence would be with the home campus could be established later. So this is an example of the founding purpose of one study abroad program. The intent included the idea that the Florence program would have positive consequences for the very identity of the home university. Gonzaga is still struggling to realize this purpose. From the very beginning, the founding purpose entailed that the GIF faculty, the Gonzaga and Florence faculty, would be constituted by both local professors for whom there was a preference and some major campus faculty in rotation, from the business faculty, the philosophy faculty, religious studies, and now we have teacher education and engineering. And we really have not been able to go beyond this in terms of developing the kind of system of mutual sympathy and influence where the foreign faculty significantly affects the constitution of the home campus. Mindful of the founding purpose of Gonzaga and Florence, in recent years the local faculty have expressed a great desire for resources for professional and career development that would include funding for postdoctoral research, funding for writing articles and books, funding for presenting their work at professional and national conferences, international conferences as well, and also workshops for skill enhancement. They would like career development comparable to the tenure track formula, with advantages like sabbaticals and change of title from adjunct to assistant to associate to full professor, or an equivalent professional scale, perhaps even unrelated to that of the United States universities. These are ambitious requests. What can be done? Let me discuss what I have done and what I consider possible. Since I became dean 10 years ago, I've attempted to build a faculty culture by providing professional development internally without external funding, although a donor has recently come forward indicating willingness to support mission-related professional development. What we've done, we have a faculty pro seminar where we have about 5 of those every semester, where the faculty present the results of their recent research to each other. That has been very, very helpful, and also the people who come from Spokane, Washington, which is the seat of the home university, we get to know what they're doing. They get to know what we're doing. And there's a chance to form a more profound, a more intensive collegiality, which has been very, very, I think, successful. We do international conferences every year, at least 1 or 2, and with participation from as many as 9 different countries on themes that you may have seen. We've published them pretty well and sent them to everybody in Okapi. We have a Socratic club where the students will suggest an issue that pertains to the status of the human person, such as recent developments in biomedical technology, and are they changing the nature and the way we look upon a human person. We have interdisciplinary plenary sessions with the Renaissance track faculty, and then we have a social science track faculty. Those plenary sessions where 5 professors get together to try to articulate an issue that can't really be formulated by any one particular discipline. And then discussing those issues, and the students are educated by engaging those professors in that discussion, so that the university becomes a great conversation. Team teaching with main campus faculty, we've done some of that, but team teaching is a fabulous method for faculty development. I became competent in natural scientific psychology because I taught with a behaviorist psychologist for about 5 years in Seattle, and read all the literature, and he basically mentored me into some competence in that area. We have an online journal, Voyages. It's a scholarly journal. We publish scholarly articles, and I think some significant scholars have contributed, such as Paolo Rossi and Sergio Givoni. Book presentations. We'll have a book presentation on Tuesday. You're all invited, 5 o'clock, followed by a fabulous cocktail, on Andrea Pozzo, the Jesuit illusionist and contemporary video art. We also have limited financial support for participating in conferences and workshops, and also limited financial support for translations of articles or books pertinent to our teaching mission. So those are things we've done internally without moving outside of our budget or seeking external funding. Career development through sabbaticals is a real difficult problem, because the sabbatical belongs by its very nature to a different reality. As you know, in the U.S., a sabbatical occurs every 6 or 7 years after tenure has been granted. And the tenure track includes continuous colleague and student evaluation of teaching, colleague evaluation of research that supports teaching and significantly contributes to the profession, and review every 2 years on the tenure track, the whole process being 6 years before the tenure decision is made. A tenure track also requires full-time teaching. Generally 6 courses per year, at least in the 28 Jesuit colleges and universities in the United States. Promotion to associate professor can take up to 6 years after being hired as an assistant professor, and another 4 to 6 years after the rank of associate to become full professor. We have only one person at Gonzaga and Florence who is tenured full-time associate professor in a home department, and who has just recently, after 20 years, taken a sabbatical. A few of the other teachers offer as many as 4 courses, but most offer only 1 or 2. And so basically there is no proper proportionality between the main campus's system of tenure and promotion and what could be achieved on a satellite campus. No proper proportionality. And sadly, I must report there is a failure on the part of some adjunct faculty in our study abroad institutions, I think all of ours, to understand this point. Because the request comes as though it's something easy to achieve. Why can't I have a sabbatical? I've been here 3 years. Tenure at the satellite campus would mean, as far as I can tell, contratto tempo indeterminato. The tenure track would be the 3-year contratto tempo determinato. That's the structure we have here in Italy. In my judgment, there must be professional evaluation of teaching and research during those 3 years, and of course during the hiring process, so that the home institution is not held hostage by minimally qualified teachers. Intensive professional evaluation of teaching and research. In most cases, this would have to be performed probably by outside consultants because our faculties, our communities are so small. And when I've asked faculty members, would you sit in so-and-so's class and evaluate his or her class? Oh, no. I don't want to get near that. He or she's my friend. So outside consultants, that takes money. And of course, there has to be a plethora of systematic student evaluations. A person offering only one course could qualify, in my judgment, for a contratto tempo indeterminato if the course is central to the mission of the study abroad institution. How am I doing on time? Good. As far as rank is concerned, the adjunct title, as odious as it is to the local faculty, is not going to disappear, as is evident, and Sasha pointed this out, in the United States university system. In the Italian university system, the current ranks are professore ordinario, professore associato, and professore ricercatori. We are not in a position to award these titles, and our adjunct faculty should not be using them in their correspondence and what have you. However, once tempo determinato, that period has been successfully completed, we could look at another rank, a title, and titles are very important to our faculty. And I'm currently working with the academic vice president on this, and we're thinking about the title lecturer, lecturer 1, lecturer 2, lecturer 3, and with lecturer 4 being the highest. That could be granted depending on the degree the person holds, a PhD or equivalent, contribution to the profession, and the total years of service the person has had on the faculty. In Spokane, the title lecturer is used for non-tenure stream positions. And all faculty on the home campus that are on a non-tenure track contract, whether it is a fixed term in nature or ongoing, bear the lecturer title with few exceptions. So we're moving toward that without getting into some of the legal problems that we'd have to face and also financial problems of keeping titles like assistant professor, associate professor, full professor. Perhaps something analogous to a sabbatical would be possible with release time being given for research projects governed by conditions similar to those that govern the granting of a sabbatical, but this would probably have to be funded by an external donor. We don't have that built into our budget. The possibility that some of our local faculty could occasionally work and be part of the main campus faculty rests primarily, in my judgment, on the development of a system of faculty exchanges. And it would most likely involve only those local faculty who teach up to 3 courses per semester. And we could go on in that. I would say that we've had, some of our faculty have been, because of our pro seminars and things, and people get to know each other intellectually and professionally, some have been invited to be part of the home faculty in Spokane, but they don't want to leave because they're afraid that they're going to lose their job in other institutions that they have to work in. Because you're gone for a semester, well, somebody else looks better. So that effort has been stymied by the fact that people are not just committed to Gonzaga, but they have to work so many other places. Only one of our faculty members has been part of an exchange, and I think it worked out pretty well, but it has not been renewed. Interdisciplinary work, I think it's the path. I see interdisciplinary work being achieved on our satellite campus as a real boon for the home campus efforts to realize its core curriculum. I could go on about that. The obstacle to interdisciplinary work is usually the fact that disciplines are confined to departments, and departments are cost centers, and it gets really crazy. But what's Gonzaga doing? This summer, for instance, the required core curriculum course in ethics, required of all students, will be taught by a philosopher and an Italian language teacher. In this way, the home campus and the satellite campus can be internally and dynamically related, and with the home campus being changed by its creative engagement with its own study abroad campus. That the core curriculum is sacred in the Jesuit institution, and to make this move to rendering a course like ethics, taking it out of the sole property of philosophy and putting it in, allowing it to be part of an interdisciplinary structure is revolutionary, and I'm hoping this is going to work out well. Let me conclude by noting that in the United States there's a strong trend toward the globalization of institutions, with universities opening centers for global engagement. But in the spirit of free inquiry, we must ask whether such a center is to be relegated to an office on campus, one among others, such as has been the case with the Diversity Office or the Women's Studies Office on many U.S. campuses. Or does it entail significantly changing the university, how it conceives itself, no longer as provincial or national, but as international, as a global institution with multiple centers of learning? Global engagement cannot be just one program among others, but has to be systemic to all programs within the university, a pivotal dimension of every school and major. Global engagement means that our students actually engage other cultures in their particular environments, as is the case with most of our study abroad programs. This requires that the faculty and the administration develop international competence, and that the curricular schedule in each discipline within the university is transformed such that in each there is an ideal, the ideal anyway, that every student studies abroad for at least one semester before graduation. Thank you.